There is something about abandoned places that intrigues us. Some of these places have been sitting deserted for many years. So, from an abandoned island that was once home to thousands, to a skeleton discovered in a cave, here we have 5 creepy abandoned places. There's a small city in Arizona where lies the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument, a group of Anasazi dwellings dating back centuries, but as compelling as these structures are, an even more mysterious collection of modern ruins endure on the southern outskirts of the desert town. Some have likened the eerie abandoned buildings known as the domes to flying saucer-like UFO houses, retro-futuristic ruins inspired by post-war science fiction shows. Tucked away in a neighbourhood near South Thornton Road, the domes are understood to have been in the 1970s or 1980s for computer manufacturing, but were never completed. Locals talk of witchcraft and devil worship taking place within the domes, and warn would-be urban explorers to stay away, especially from the abandoned tunnels to the east of the site. 9 miles south of the port city of Nagasaki is a decaying reminder of Japan's dark past. Ashima Island lies among 500 plus desolate islands in the Nagasaki prefecture, yet its crumbling industrial landscape sets it apart from the rest of the region. Commonly referred to as Gunkanjima or Battleship Island, it resembles an approaching warship with its concrete sea walls and towering grey buildings. Japanese discovered coal deposits beneath the island in 1887. Manufacturing company Mitsubishi bought the island 3 years later, erecting towering concrete apartments in 1916 to house miners and their families. Soon Hashima was a fully functioning 16-acre city complete with living quarters, schools, marketplaces, sports facilities, a theatre and a hospital. In the 1930s and through World War II, Japan's industrial ambitions and wartime efforts negatively impacted life on Hashima. Korean civilians and Chinese prisoners of war were forced into servitude, labouring for hours in the coal mines below. Surviving workers tell chilling tales of cramped quarters, starvation, back-breaking work and work-related deaths. Gradually, life on Hashima improved. Fresh water was pumped in from underground pipes beginning in 1957, and small gardens took root on rooftops above. By 1959, with over 5,000 residents squeezed onto the island's slim 16 acres, it represented one of the most densely populated places in the world. Such golden years were short-lived. As coal levels dropped and petroleum became a more valuable energy source, Hashima's industrial might dwindled. In 1974, Mitsubishi was forced to close down the mines beneath the island. It wasn't long before the families simply left their homes, sailing back to shore in search of new work, often leaving their belongings behind. With its residents gone, Hashima fell into abandonment, decaying off the coast of Japan for decades. In the early 1970s, a wave of panic spread around the North London suburb of Highgate. Tales of a sinister ghostly figure and bizarre occult rituals at the famous local cemetery has led many residents to fear for their safety. Although Highgate Cemetery has long been a hotspot for ghost sightings, the local and national media would soon come to seize on one particular apparition. The first sightings of the figure came in the early 1960s. Highgate Cemetery was then over 100 years old and had fallen into despair and decay. Overgrown and sprawling, the Gothic Victorian graveyard seemed the perfect setting for the strange and sinister events that would follow. One night in 1963, a couple were walking home down Swains Lane, which passed along Cemetery's North Gate. What they encountered was so terrible they were frozen to the spot, transfixed with fear. They'd come face to face with what would be known later as the Highgate Vampire, a tall dark figure floating behind the railings. More sightings would follow. A man walking his dog saw the same tall dark figure sliding along the wall along Swains Lane. The local newspaper in Highgate, the Hampstead and Highgate Express, had become interested in the sightings. In particular, the reports of Satanists performing black magic and sacrificing animals at the cemetery. While a vampire failed to show up, many witnesses reported a dark figure lurking in the cemetery. This large hospital complex with 60 buildings was originally built in 1898 and designed as a sanatorium for the Berlin Workers' Health Insurance Corporation. From the onset of World War I, it was used as a military hospital of the Imperial German Army. During October and November 1916, Adolf Hitler recuperated here after being wounded in the leg at the Battle of the Somme. In 1945, it was occupied by Red Army forces and remained a Soviet military hospital until 1995. After the Soviet withdrawal, there were attempts made to privatize the hospital, but they were not successful. Some sections of the hospital remain in operation to this day as a neurological rehabilitation center, and for research and care for victims of Parkinson's disease. The remainder of the complex, including the surgery, the psychiatric ward and a rifle range, remain abandoned since 2000. Cheddar Man's discovery was made in 1903. The remains of this prehistoric man were found 20 meters inside Gow's Cave, the largest of 100 caverns in Cheddar Gorge. Cheddar Man was found to have been buried alone near the mouth of the deep cave, and results from dating suggest that he lived 9,000 years ago, during the Mesolithic period. Other remains found date back over 11,000 years. Although the caves are most famous for maturing cheddar cheese, they are steeped in a history of violence and magic. At one time, humans occupied the caves along with mammoths, whose tusk marks can be seen at the entrance to some of the caves. Each year, around 500,000 people visit these spooky caves. So that was 5 creepy abandoned places in the world. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.